If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
Where I left off last time, I had just cut the solid wood edging for the side wings, and after that I got those put on. I used a spline actually that I cut on the table saw that lined up the surface perfectly, and then I just used glue and clamps to hold it together. I didn't want to put any nails or screws in this. I did the same here on the front of the shelf. That piece I cut, I actually put a couple of screws in the middle after I glued it on, and then I clamped it at the ends. Then I gave the shelf down here, plus the nosing, a couple of coats of water-based polyurethane. I also did the side wings, 2 coats, even on the back as well. Then I lifted the saw back up on the thing and lined it up where it needs to go and screwed it down. I edge banded the front of the cabinet here. All the places where the plywood was showing, I just covered it with this thin veneer. It's heat activated. You just stick it on and then trim off the excess, and it, finishes up nicely. I've got a video on that, a separate video, and a link in the description also to that goes over that in a little bit more detail. I wanted to separate that out of this because it's more of a general type thing. Before I can put the side tables on, I need to get these fillers put in on either side. I'm going to hold them back from the front by about 1/4 inch. Really doesn't matter. What they do is they keep the dust in here and not coming out here. And to attach it, I'm just going to drive a screw in through the end. Once again, I'm just using screws here. I'm not using any glue. These side tables line up so that they're 1 inch past the face of the base cabinet here. Just going to measure that. And then I can get a clamp on it to hold it in place so that it doesn't move while I get a couple of 1 1/4 inch screws up into it from underneath. Once again, I'm not gluing the side table down. I'm just using screws to hold it in place, just in case I want to change something in the future. Both side tables are on. Now I can get the peel and stick tape put on. The problem is, of course, that you can't run it up onto the saw because it'll just peel off or get in the way. So you have to start somewhere. And I'm going to start as close to the end as I possibly can. But what I've done is I've cut a piece of plywood here that's 12 inches long. I'm going to run that right up tight to the blade and hold that there. What I'm looking for here is for the tape to be the actual dimensions of the parts that I want to cut. Usually you can offset the tape whatever amount you want because there'll be a pointer that points to it. But in my case, I want it to be as close as possible to that so that I can just eyeball cut sometimes. Just take them up, put them in place, line them up with the mark on the tape and make the cut. Something that, it doesn't have to be exactly right, but just close enough. I'm gonna obviously have to cut some off the end. It needs to start at that mark at 12, so I can come back to around 11 1/4 and cut that right off. I'll just use a pair of scissors for that. So I've got that end clamped on the 12-inch mark, and I'm just gonna spool it out to the end here and cut it off. This is a right to left reading tape, and the one on the other side will be opposite so that I get correct readings both sides. Then I can peel off the backing and stick it down inside that rabbet that I cut the last time. Now I can do the same thing on the other end over here. I've already cut the tape to the right length. Just peel it off, stick it on. Make sure there's nothing in the track where it goes. I'm also going to keep these parts that I cut off just in case I want to extend the wings that way. Or if I got a smaller saw, a saw with a smaller base, I can always add on to it by just butting that right up against the end of the tape that's cut. All right, with this setup, I've got nearly 48 inches on either side, which is plenty for me for this kind of thing. Usually when you're cutting something to an exact dimension over and over again where you need a stop block, it's going to be 48 inches or less. So this is good for that. Also, you know, when the stock goes down and lines up, it doesn't cover the tape. You can still see clearly the tape by looking over it like this. And if you need a piece that's approximate length, but still pretty accurate, just line it up with the mark on the tape and then make your cut. I've got one other thing I want to do before I wrap this one up. I want to get this cabinet down off the wall and put on top of that one. I figure this is probably the perfect thing to put up there. It's already built, first of all, which is a good thing. And I had a lot of stuff put in here. I didn't realize until I went to clean it out just how much stuff this can hold. So what I'm going to do first, though, is take these doors off. Not that they're really heavy, but they'll make the cabinet a lot less awkward to get down and bring over there. So this is the last screw. And I'm just going to let it... It's stuck. Huh. That's interesting. Wow. Must be the paint. It must be stuck right onto the paint. There we go. Ah. Okay, I come back down on the floor here. It's kind of sitting up on the belt grinder. Take it down and bring it right over on top of the other one. Okay, there's a couple of different ways I could do this. I could, you know, push it to the end, have a bigger space on the end. I could also center it, which is what I really want to do, so that I've got those two spaces on the end there that I could make something deeper, because this cabinet is not as deep as this thing. It won't go right back to the wall if I make it flush with the cabinet up here, which I want to do. So if I have this flush with the cabinet below it, I need to lift it up on the back because this lifts down a little bit. And to do that, try to do this without knocking the whole thing down. I cut a filler that'll sit on the back. One thing about this cabinet, when I built it, I wasn't too concerned about how it looked. I put the face frame on, but it's just rough cut on the table saw. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually sand this down and, you know, give it a coat of water-based polyurethane just so that it kind of matches better what's already here. Because right up there right now, it looks kind of shabby. The doors are finished and they look good and they cover a lot of it, but I still don't like seeing parts of it here. Yeah, you know what? That's going to look a lot better, a lot cleaner for sure. I'm going to give this 2 coats. I'm also going to give the edge banding that I did earlier a couple of coats as well. And that will be all of the upper part that's done anyway, finished and ready to go.